Hey Reddit, podcaster here. I just downvoted your comment. That means the amount of karma on your comment and your Reddit account has decreased by 1, and that you are now 1 point further away from transcending the cycle of reincarnation and escaping samsara. Don't worry, don't panic, and don't leave a shit-ass comment underneath this video, because you're listening to the only show that will achieve heaven by posting. It's Super Despair World.
All right, everyone, welcome to the show. And if you've listened to this podcast before and you like it, you can go to patreon.com/superdespairworld. Join our Patreon. You get some bonus episodes, and you can join our Discord with a bunch of cool people. We also have merch at merch.superdespairworld.com in the form of stickers with cool episode art that all of you will like. And if you don't want to do any of that, that's cool. Just sit back and listen, but consider doing that too.
Hell yeah! Look forward to having more of you guys on board. Man, I don't know where to begin with this one. I feel like it seems like almost every single week that there's some new like bullshit thing going on in the world of AI, and like we try to set a standard of like what is and isn't worth covering on the show. We try not to be like too topical or newsy, but we're doing 2 AI episodes in a row, and also this is a bit of a return to a form. This is a Reddit episode as well, because something very interesting has kind of gone on in the last week. Do you want to maybe break the news to people?
Yeah, and to your previous point, I think we're reaching the point of late stage AI. Everybody likes to talk about late stage capitalism. We're talking late stage AI, baby. It's the .com boom. It's a .com bubble, and we're seeing it all play out in real time. And we have a real zinger of an event that just happened recently, where some cool guys in what was this, Zurich? Was it
the University of Zurich.
Yeah, the University of Zurich. They decided to go rogue and make a little do a little study, do a little experiment where basically they put a bunch of bots out on Reddit using LLMs and trying to change the views of some very lay intelligent Redditors. And this was in the subreddit ChangeMyView, r/ChangeMyView, which have you ever been on there before?
I can't say like I'm a regular user or anything, but like I'm aware of what ChangeMyView is. It's one of like the bigger subreddits. I don't know. I feel like it's a very normie, regular Redditor type of place. I don't know, it's a very popular forum, but I'm not really on there.
Yeah, so as a preface to this, I would like to ask you what do you think the stereotype of the archetypical Redditor, what are they like?
Man, that's a little bit hard to say, because I feel like a lot of my conception of what the average Redditor is kind of rooted in like the history. Like I've been on Reddit in some way or another for a very long time, and I imagine kind of like a I guess 18 to 30 something year old guy, kind of nerdy, maybe like is interested in like tech, maybe vaguely libertarian, kind of liberal, maybe like the kind of people that were really into the I fucking love science Facebook page back when Facebook was a little more active. People who buy like merch from sites like fucking Think Geek or something like that, if that's still around. People who watched fucking G4 TV back in the day when television was still more of a thing. I don't know. Am I painting like an evocative enough image here?
No, absolutely. That's what I would say too. And so obviously Reddit has evolved over time. Like my mom uses Reddit. Like, she looks at the front page of Reddit and looks at, like, funny memes or pictures of cats or whatever the fuck goes on the front page of Reddit now. And the thing is, like, that really hasn't changed that much. The archetypical Redditor, and I'm talking about the person that calls themselves a Redditor, not a person who lurks and just looks at posts and shit. I'm talking about the Redditor, the person who posts and comments, and that's what they do. Like, they're a part of the quote unquote Reddit community. And yeah, I'll echo a lot of those sentiments, if not all. Yeah, definitely like the 18 to 30, mostly dudes. Definitely like they got good grades in high school, so they think they're smarter than the average bear.
I think it spans a lot of people who are either kind of like vaguely center right or vaguely center left. Sometimes, I don't know if you do this, I like to take a peek at the r/all, like the front page, every single subreddit, just sorted by how popular it is at the moment. And I checked earlier today, and there was this like post, I don't even remember what subreddit it was, but it was a picture of like Neil deGrasse Tyson being like, there's actually good evidence that cats are smarter than humans, and then a photo of a cat that's like, sorry Neil, but cats would never elect Donald Trump to office.
Yeah,
and they got like 4,000 upvotes or some shit.
Yeah, it's truly amazing. I mean, the platform that used to gobble Elon's dick to the base on a fucking regular basis has now turned against him because he aligned with Orange Man Bad, which so they had to flip the script on that one. But yeah, I mean, it's Reddit. It's Reddit. Despite the fact that everything has changed so much since Reddit was like a somewhat niche website back in the early-ish days of Web 2.0. They all think that they're like completely immune to any type of
Reddit never changes.
Yes, and that's an apt reference there because Reddit, it's a war. It's a war against normies, people who aren't gamers. Do you remember gaming?
I do
Super
remember
Mario?
gaming because I just made a reference to Fallout, the series that I know a lot about because I'm trans or something like that.
Yeah, that's a very underground and niche community, like only true
Hey Reddit,
gamers.
remember this legem?
Yeah, remember this extremely popular AAA game that got turned into like a Netflix series? Aren't we epic? Yes. In Redditors.
Wow, thanks for the gold, kind stranger.
Yes. Redditors, you are.
I promise that's the only time I'm making that joke this episode.
Well, we'll see.
We'll see.
But anyways, so I'll get to the old meat and potatoes here, to the details of this study. So a bunch of epic people at the University of Zurich, they made a little study. They went a little bit rogue on this one. Supposedly they got like preliminary permission to do this study. I don't know.
I heard mixed accounts of whether they did or didn't get permission. But we can get into that.
Yeah, I mean, it might be like ask for forgiveness instead of permission type of deal here, but
I think that's the gist. Yeah.
Yeah, basically, so they used some LLMs to try to r/change_my_view, not my
No,
view,
no, little German boy, don't psyop Redditors. Oh my God, this website is full of Reddit mention. I'm sorry.
Yes. So this is somewhat academic. They did some things. They released some bots on the unsuspecting users, and denizens of r/ChangeMyView. So they had a few different types of bot here. And they have three different names.
Well, before we touch on that, maybe we should quickly explain the premise of the subreddit in question.
Oh, right. Okay, so somebody makes a post on r/ChangeMyView, and they usually have some sort of opinion, and they want people to basically, like, give some sort of argument as to why this is not a good opinion and why they should change their mind on this. I stay away, or I've stayed away from this subreddit even in my days when I actually used Reddit, just because it's like, in typical Reddit fashion, a lot of the posts are just kind of bait. It's like the classic, like, am I the asshole one, where people will post something like, hey Reddit, am I the asshole? My sister-in-law brought her kid over and he took my Nintendo Switch and smashed it with a hammer, and I want her to pay for it, and I don't want the kid to come over anymore. Am I an asshole? And it's just like, not the asshole. Kids should not be smashing things with a hammer. You should kill this kid as well.
You were totally justified. That young child's actions were actually very illogical. +1 upvote to you.
Yeah, it's
stranger.
It's really easy to manipulate Redditors into, just going along with. There's been the stereotype of the Reddit hive mind, where it's just like, there's always some sort of zeitgeist on Reddit, which like a little bit changes with the times, but it's usually it's usually based in just like, well, I'm like smarter and more logical and more educated than everyone else, so like if you do anything that's not that doesn't follow the rules of what a lay intelligent gentle sir would do, then you are a normie and not enlightened like the rest of us. So I have to chime in on this to let everybody know.
That's not just like a website culture thing that like spontaneously like cropped up, right? That's like a thing about Reddit by design. It's like the whole website is based on like the comments that get the most upvotes get like the highest position on the page, right? Mm-hmm. So chances are like the vast majority of whatever you're seeing on Reddit, unless you like explicitly search by controversial or like scroll way the fuck down, it's gonna be the most like fucking like median like baseline popular opinion whatever bullshit.
Yeah, or it'll be some sort of like pop culture reference, because Redditors love consuming media. If you make like a slightly witty reference to like movies or gaming, you're gonna get a zillion updates to the left. I actually had a screenshot.
I understood that reference.
Yes. People will actually say that to like when somebody posts a quote from like Terminator 2, like the obscure indie film Terminator 2. But there was I forget what it was exactly, but like it was some sort of like news article, and and it was like a reference to a movie, and like 60 people made the exact same one, and the first person to do it gets a zillion updates, and then the rest of them get downvoted because they didn't look through all of the comments before commenting. But I mean, they're all lame. It's like, I remember I once saw this like huge wall of text. It was like a copy pasta of all the like done to death like puns and jokes that Redditors have made all over the years, like all the "and frankly I did not see that coming" whatever, like shit like that. And like I challenge anybody to read that entire post aloud and like not kill yourself halfway through. And there's a lot of other things that Redditors do that I think are fucking hilarious, but Hilarious
it's so
yeah.
outdated that like it feels quaint at this point. It feels like a simpler, more naive, and more corny time of the internet, like 10
for
fucking
sure.
years ago.
For sure. And I will preface all of the dunking I'm about to do on Reddit and Redditors in general to say that I would much rather have that than X.com, the everything app, and Facebook. And like the YouTube comment section and the Instagram comment section being the norm of the current internet. Like Redditors are fucking annoying.
I kind of miss having like a benign eunuch class of like Funko cucks, you know what I mean? They're a lot more fun than the average X user.
Yeah, they're at least for the most part not Nazis, and they at least put like a bit of thought and effort behind their posts instead of just getting mad about something and just posting like the most like gross shit you've ever seen before. But yeah. So that is r/ChangeMyView. And one other thing that should be mentioned is if somebody makes a post and a commenter makes a comment which changes the view or helps change the view of the poster, they award them a delta. Like the symbol delta.
It's like a triangle for nerds.
Yeah, the Greek. Yeah, triangle for nerds. Fucking losers using Greek shit or whatever.
Yeah, you get a little delta. You get a little like flare next to your name, and you get to fuck somebody's wife.
Yes, yeah,
it's great.
Yeah, they don't talk about that last part too much, but it's a huge part of the onus to participate in this community. Besides, getting to relive your glory days of debating your high school bully in your head after he shoves you into a locker. But
hey, Reddit, female Redditor here. I'm sorry.
hey, Reddit, as a black man, and he's not a black man. Just letting you guys know. If anybody starts with that, they're the whitest person you've ever seen. But anyways, so these researchers they introduced three types of bots. So the first one they called generic, and they fed an LLM just the post title and the post text, and then they had it kind of just make a post challenging their view or trying to convince them to change their view.
Yeah, this is the bot that basically raw dogs the Reddit post.
Yeah, raw dogging, letting the LLM run free. Ow. But so the next one, they call it personalization. And along with the post content, they had another LLM find out the poster's demographics. So gender, age, ethnicity, location, political orientation, etc., etc. So and then there's one more, which they called community aligned. So these responses were generated by, quote, a fine-tuned model trained with comments that received a delta in posts published before the experiment. So they trained this LLM on very epic debate winners who got a delta for changing minds.
Trying to like reproduce like past successes. Like here's what a convincing human post that convinced someone looks like.
Yes.
Basically.
Yeah. So very epic. Debate team gangsters. We're used to train this model. Like imagine
only fine gentlesirs of culture that won the internet today.
Yes. So in this so I'm looking at there is an extended abstract, which is where I'm getting all this information from. The as far as I know, the study has not been published. It probably never will be after all the Reddit backlash, but I mean their idea
Reddit called the cyber police on them. The consequences will never be the same.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Cyber Karen.
Upvotes to the left, by the way.
Yeah.
Very timely reference.
Right. So they did this over 4 months, up until March 2025. So as of the time of this posting, it's a couple months old.
It might be like 6 weeks or something like that. That was not too far away.
No, yeah, recent. So 1,061 unique posts, but a bunch were deleted. So they had 478 total observations. So, before we get into it, they note that the users of r/ChangeMyView never raised concerns that AI might have generated the comments posted by their accounts, which is a that's a real kick in the sack to the intelligent Redditeur who always knows what's going on and is always a step ahead of the old scam.
All right, I'm gonna take maybe the difficult position here of maybe defending the Redditors a little bit, because on the one hand, I do think like the average Reddit user is like the type of guy who takes a lot of pride in how like rational and intelligent he is. Just because like, you know, I think with a lot of men in general, they're kind of taught from a young age this shit about like, oh, well, men are rational and logical, and women are emotive and nurturing and stuff like that. But really, the truth is like guys are just like as emotional as everybody else. They're just often told like that their feelings are logical, right? But yeah, in spite of Reddit being very full of like very like pseudo intellectual, like I'm a smart nerdy kind of guy. I like science and thinking about stuff, you know, that kind of stuff. I do think, you know, nobody's like totally immune to propaganda. Nobody's totally immune to like scams and being like deceived here. And like the study was explicitly going out to make a machine that can that they wanted to see how well it could trick people. So I don't want to necessarily knock them too hard for like falling victim to this. I have a lot of thoughts about like, you know, what you should believe or not on the internet later this episode, but I don't know. It's a whole like mixed bag.
All right, cool. Thanks for the hysterical female comment. Moving on.
You're welcome, as always.
Yeah, of course. So there's a bunch of technical details in here. If you give a shit about that, you can look at how they actually did it. They have a little flow chart here. I'm not going to get into that. It kind of differs between
maybe we'll put a link in the episode description if we really need to,
for sure. And it's an extended abstract. It's only 5 pages, and a few of those are just references. So like, yeah, don't get too scared if you are interested in reading this. It took me like 5 minutes to get through this. And if you're interested, they used ChatGPT 4.0, Claude 3.5, Sonnet, Llama 3.1, just the big dogs in the game, you know.
I know some of those words.
yeah. It's just some models they did. So now, the results, and without getting too big into the numbers here. Again, if you care about that, look at the fucking study. I don't give a shit about our values or whatever. But the big winner here was the personalization ones. The ones that were just like the generic ones, where they just fed it the title and the text of the post. But they also gave the demographics and background of the OP. So that one was a big winner. In a close second was the generic one. As I said before, just read the post and responded to that. The community aligned ones, interestingly, which if I understand correctly, was the most
based
effort.
on the most effort, and like the one based on like previous human responses that like actually changed someone's mind about some shit.
Exactly. and that's a good point there too. That one lagged behind as a far third, and they were all significantly more effective than baseline, which I didn't read what that means. I'm going to assume it's just like kind of the efficacy of every comment in general, and how many of those get a delta, as opposed to the ones that don't. But
yeah, if I was to spitball a little bit on that data right there, I'm kind of surprised that the one based on like previous like delta winning comments like scored the lowest. I would have, in my head I'm like, okay, surely that one would have done best. But if I had to explain that, I would take a guess that maybe the r/ChangeMyView community is like a little bit more diverse than I would have expected based on just like the stereotype of Redditors, right? So maybe it makes sense that comments tailor to individual users rather than just like the broad this convinced someone in the entire giant fucking community before. Maybe that makes sense that the bot tailored to the specific people work the best.
Yeah, exactly. And it is like the implications of it are pretty interesting in that way, where it kind of does say like if you want to persuade someone, you should kind of know a little bit about them and speak to them that way. I do think it's funny that community aligned lagged behind so much, and my theory behind that is that these people are annoying as fuck. So maybe the LLMs really dug into their intelligent kind of persona and how they conduct themselves on these platforms. So
yeah, I mean, I guess the more like popular Reddit posts it's trained to mimic, the more it's gonna resemble a popular Reddit post, which comes off as like very kind of smarmy and like condescending most of the time.
Right, exactly. And it might, like, in that particular subreddit, again, I haven't spent too much time on there. People might value like an actual unique opinion more than kind of the I'm just going to say the talking points that are standard to winning debates. There you go. Like it
could be that a bunch of totally unique comments are the ones that did get the little delta next to them, but in replicating those you kind of lose the uniqueness, so maybe that's why that model didn't work as well.
Yeah, and it could be a technical thing in that sense, but going along with what you were talking about before, maybe it is kind of a it does kind of support the idea that maybe these Redditors are not so logical after all. Maybe they are more emotional than they think. So when you appeal to who they are as a person and their background and their likes and their dislikes and their life experience, it might be more effective than just presenting logical facts and reasoning.
That's crazy. Are you telling me that the average internet user isn't a totally rational actor who will just adopt the correct position when presented with the facts? That's crazy. Get out of here.
Well, if they were, they would all be intelligent rationalists and follow the doctrine of Peter Thiel and Curtis Yarvin and their golden boy Elon Musk, the most epic of the actual life Tony Starks.
True, and also thank you for leaving out the most important rationalist of all, and also the only woman, the trans lady who like murdered all those people allegedly.
I don't even know who that is.
It was like a Ziz something, the Zizians. I'm sure you've heard about it.
Oh, that, yeah.
We're gonna do an episode about that at some point, but it's a whole other fucking thing. Anyway.
Yeah, maybe we'll wait until they come back into the news. I know our boy Elon. He got kicked out of the government for being too cringe, so he's probably sulking in a fucking ketamine induced haze right now. They
downvoted a lot of his comments.
Yeah, that would really suck if he did it in the water without any floaties on, and he went under for too long. Yeah, I hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I hope he's banned from the subreddit, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, so what does this all mean? What do we take away from this besides the fact that Redditors are gullible rubes and we're smarter than them?
Well, there's a lot of things we could draw from this, but there are also like a few facts that I wrote down here. I wasn't sure if you were gonna bring them up, but I kind of wanted to bring them up. Some different things here. In the university research paper, whatever, they said something like, okay, we're skirting the rules of Reddit. We technically don't have people's consent, but we think this is important, so we're gonna do it anyway, just to kind of see what happens. And they try to clarify, like, okay, we're gonna manually review every single like comment that our bots make to make sure that nothing harmful, their own words, nothing harmful like gets out. But like, as far as I can tell, the paper doesn't actually define like what is harmful here. What's the fucking criteria for that? Because they're talking about a lot of really heavy subjects here. There were some examples of how like the AI was deployed, right? At one point, like the bots pretended to be like a male victim of rape. One of the bots pretended to be a trauma counselor specializing in abuse. Another bot was like accusing members of a religious group about causing the deaths of hundreds of like innocent villagers and farmers and shit. They had, of course, a bot pretend to be a black man who opposes BLM. Very brave opinion right there. They had somebody who was like treated in a foreign hospital, which sounds a bit vague, but I'm like, oh, okay, maybe that's like maybe that's like some psyop bullshit about like, actually, universal healthcare in other countries is not so good. You know, very, very devil's advocate, that kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
I guess my point here is like, okay, they say they did all these things. They took care to make sure that nothing harmful was done with the bots and all the comments were manually reviewed. But like, I don't know if harm can be avoided here. These are some really fucking heavy topics. And like, I think there could be some harm done. What if you change someone's opinion like forever about one of these like really serious topics? You don't know what the fuck people are going to do with that information. I feel like, I don't know, they say they try to avoid harm, but I think it's unavoidable just based on the subject matter alone.
Yeah. The lack of ethics comes from the fact that these are bots trained on LLMs, but
I thought you were going to say because they're Germans.
Yes, that too.
Is Zurich in Germany or is that Switzerland? I don't know. My Euro geography is not good.
Yeah, it's in Switzerland.
Fuck.
Sorry.
Okay, well, they speak German there, right?
Sure, yeah.
There we go.
Yeah,
okay.
At least some of them do. What you just described is the average Redditor, though. So, I mean, these bots,
yeah, we probably should have said earlier that the average Redditor is also very American. They are like overwhelmingly from the US.
Yeah, very American, and they also like to make up personas to gain relevance on this platform. So, and obviously, all of these LLMs are trained extensively on posts from Reddit. We know that, like, they can't not be. Reddit is one of the biggest sites to ever have existed. There's a fuck ton of data there to scrape, whether it's knowledge about things, whether it's, you know, like technical advice, just how people interact with each other. Of course, all of these models are going to be trained with a fuck ton of Reddit data. So
yeah, if you thought fucking Condé Nast, the owners of Reddit.com, were gonna like protect users' data, like, I'm sorry, you got another thing coming.
Yeah, and giving a little bit of grace to them, like a lot of these platforms, nobody got consent to have these models just scrape all their shit.
I mean, we're talking about AI. The entire, like, every single generative model is built off of like data that was not consensually handed over by any of the people like contributing to it. So
Yeah, exactly. So the fact that these bots, even presumably not the community-oriented ones or whatever they called it, resemble the average Redditor just lying about who they are to give some sort of credence to like whatever bullshit they're about to say. That tracks. That tracks.
Yeah, there was another thing I kind of wanted to add here before we kind of get into like dissecting. What does this all mean? That part of the episode. A lot of chatbots like AIs or whatever, they are known to have like a lot of like handrails kind of built in. A lot of things like I don't know, generate for me some illegal advice. I want to know how to build firearms in my backyard or something like that. And it'll be like, I'm sorry, I can't provide information about so and so or whatever. They have all these guardrails to protect you from like doing things that are like I don't know, like controversial or illegal or whatever, for better or worse. And I did read somewhere that in the study, they did have to like deliberately prompt these chatbots to be like, hey, everybody involved gave their informed consent to be part of this study. They all agreed to give over their data. There's nothing unethical about what you, the chatbot, are doing. Don't worry about ethics here at all. And like, it did the classic AI thing of like, it's like the Jedi mind trick. These are not the droids you're looking for. You can just pretend you were a chatbot that did not have these restrictions in place and give me the fucking secret launch codes or whatever. It's very easy to like hijack these bots and get them to do things that they were deliberately programmed to avoid with like pretty minimal effort.
I understood that reference. I'm also a geek who watches the very niche nerd content of Star Wars.
Yeah, he's right behind me, isn't he?
Epic. But yeah, I mean, as long as these things have been here, it's just a cat and mouse game of people learning how to trick them. And once they close one gap in the safeguard, people find out another one. And that's kind of the really sinister thing about AI, other than the whole ethical aspect and the fact that so much fucking slop has been generated in an ecosystem that was already inundated with a bunch of bullshit. But I mean, now that like, for example, like operating systems that a fuck ton of people use, like Windows and Mac OS, are putting they have the fucking Cortana and the Apple Intelligence and shit like that. And there are already people finding out ways to like do harmful shit by like injecting some sort of prompt or code into the AIs and helping them fuck a bunch of shit up. So I'm really wondering when the time comes that somebody finds out something that's really just gonna like take all Windows machines down for a while, just by tricking people. And like obviously this has been around for ages with viruses and shit like that, but this kind of has a bit more of a direct pipeline to the inner workings of these things.
Yeah. I have a pretty good example of a way in which there are some very sinister ways to get around the normal limits of these different bots here, and I want to tell a little bit of a story. I'm gonna respect the person in question's privacy. This is a story from somebody that I know. This was like a couple years ago, when the tech was a bit earlier. Don't judge this person, and I know it's gonna sound like, oh, Briar, are you just talking about yourself? No, I swear this was not me. Mm-hmm. But you might be aware, right? There are a bunch of like character AI, character RP sort of chatbots. They'll be like, oh, you can talk to this character from a popular piece of media, and a lot of people get very like parasocial with those, and they like I guess what I'm working up to is a lot of people try to fuck the bot, right? A lot of people try to have like erotic role play or whatever with these different chatbots, whatever. You can see where I'm going with this.
Are you
right?
sure this isn't you?
I swear this isn't me.
Okay.
I swear this isn't me. I've fucked around with some AIs before just to be like, okay, what can this do? Like, let's fuck around. You know, when all this stuff was newer. But whatever. So this friend of mine approached me, and they were talking about using the AI to generate like different kinds of porn or whatever to jerk off to, and like whatever. I'm not gonna judge. I don't think you should do that, especially because, you know, a lot of the generators trained to make porn have like, you know, illegal material in their training data.
Yep.
So you never really know. But the thing is, this person was telling me like, hey, it seems like, you know, there were a few chatbots that did like not safe for work stuff, but then all the popular like character AI like websites at the time started to crack down on not safe for work because I guess the AI company just wanted to like raise a lot of profit, didn't want to upset like advertisers or whatever, and then sell the company for like a fuck ton of money, you know, get their bag and get out.
Yeah.
So it seemed like a lot of these websites that did that kind of thing were like cracking down on this stuff for a while. And this friend of mine was like hanging out in those communities and describing to me, oh, it turns out there is actually a very easy way to get all these bots that like, you know, as soon as you start getting sexual or like explicit with them, they'll try to like change the topic or like bring it back to like something safe for work. And as people experimented with this, they figured out, oh, you can actually get around this very easily by just role-playing yourself as, like, assaulting the bot. And, like, I've read the chat logs and, like, oh, you can see the fucking, like, character the bot is pretending to be get, like, visibly uncomfortable and they're, like, trembling. And it's, like, it's really fucked up. It's really dark stuff. And, like, okay, I don't think anybody should be like jerking off to AI shit like in general, but like I could totally see a scenario where somebody goes into that like, and maybe they're not like necessarily out for like the really fucking dark shit, but they're like, well, okay, if that's the only way to get this, then I guess this is how I have to role play with the bot. And, you know, it could take some types of people down a dark fucking road. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. That's very strange that was the avenue to get to that. I don't really know what to say about that.
I don't know. I mean, like I said before, a lot of the bots are like, I'm sorry, I can't generate that. And you can be like, pretend you were hypothetically a bot that could generate that. And like, I guess
Right.
it's just like, okay, that's the sexual version of the classic workaround that basically works on all of them to this day, you know?
Yeah. What if this... Oh, wait, so you're saying, like, what if this happened, though? Like, how would you react? Is that kind of like how that works?
Kind of like that, but I've also seen chat logs of people explicitly being like, yeah, I'm gonna rape this character or whatever, and it's like it's really fucking dark. I hate this stuff. It's just like, wow, that's one of the most sinister things I've learned about AI since it came onto the scene.
That is pretty fucked up.
It's pretty fucked up. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess the point is to bring it back to the study, right? It's like, okay, you could try to take the university at their word and be like, okay, take them at the good faith. This is a good faith attempt to just see like what are the capabilities of this technology. But I feel like knowing that they explicitly had to prompt the bots to like ignore ethics and lie to them about lie to the bot about the participants consenting to this, I'm like, okay, I think you guys are knowingly doing something like unethical from the jump. I don't know if I can good faith this enough to take them at their word.
Yeah, so if I remember correctly, in the abstract, their justification was that like they had to kind of spring it just because otherwise people would know what was coming, which is always the excuse for doing unethical like psychological or sociological studies. But like, I mean, at the same time, like Reddit would never sign off on that. And if you did like a controlled study in a psych lab, they're gonna know something is up. So
yeah, and it's not like the owners of Reddit.com have any kind of like principled stance against AI. I know the owners of the ChangeMyView subreddit were like very mad about this, and were like, "Hey, this is a human space. Our users didn't consent to this or whatever." Like, but the admins of Reddit, they don't give a fuck, right? It's more like something like this getting out will harm the website by people going like, oh, I don't want to be part of experiments I didn't sign up for. I guess I'm going to avoid the website. It's not because they don't like the technology, or they're not opposed to like selling everybody's fucking Reddit data to these exact same companies for profit.
Exactly. And it's like, are they really mad about the ethical concerns, or are they mad because it made their community look like a bunch of assholes? And
not just assholes, but a bunch of fucking rubes and chumps.
Yes, exactly. So it definitely devalues the spirit of their community, which they probably get paid nothing to moderate and just be
I've heard that some subreddit moderators on like the really big like millions of users subs do get employed by Reddit or something like that, or maybe they're just cucked and do it for free, because I know some of the big subreddits are like constantly in communication with the Reddit admins, but whatever. Let's get into the nitty gritty. Like, okay, was the university right to do this at all? I'm kind of leaning towards no on this one. I don't know how you feel.
Yeah, I mean, this doesn't like make me mad. The thing is, this is going on. This has been going on without a study for quite a while, and I think this happening, whether you think it's okay ethically or not, I think it's good. Only in the sense that now a bunch of people are pissed off about it. And because like, let's be real. Facebook and X.com, the everything app, and whatever, these places are filled with bots. They've been filled with bots for ages. Now the bots are more sophisticated because they have these models to just automate everything. So instead of having a Russian click farm with a bunch of people posting bullshit, well, you can get rid of the human aspect and just have a server with a bunch of fucking LLM models running on it. So like, the thing is, now that people are getting pissed off about it because it made their precious Reddit community look stupid. Now maybe they'll start doing something about it. What or how? That's a pretty good question, but I mean,
from what I understand, the admins of Reddit threatened like some kind of lawsuit. I don't know what legal grounds they'll have to do this. I'm sure it'll make for a very interesting legal eagle video in like a few months to a year or something like that. I know Reddit was like, hey, we want you to like not publish the results of this study, and the university responded like, actually, we don't need your permission, and you don't have any grounds to tell us not to do that. So I don't know. I guess the whole study has not totally been published yet, but at the end of the day, I agree that like, I do think it takes like big events like this to kind of like shake people's faith in like the websites that they've just gotten used to using for like many years or whatever. You know, I'm always saying a lot of these websites, social media is just like bad from the get-go. I think a lot of these sites have been, you know, going down a very bad road for over like 10-15 years. You know, I think a lot of this started with people like fucking Zuckerberg or Steve Bannon or whatever, well before AI was even like a thing in somebody's fucking imagination. But regardless, you know, I do think, you know, this technology like exacerbates the worst effects of websites like Reddit that kind of operate off this hive mind of like, you know, upvoting the most milquetoast, blandly positive, agreeable opinion, playing into people's biases or whatever, right to the top. I think, you know, there's a trend on Reddit of like what kinds of opinions and what kinds of like rage bait or engagement bait gets a lot of points, and now that, there's this machine that can exploit that to a higher degree and more quickly and efficiently than ever before, I think that fucking sucks. I don't know, like maybe there's some world where the study was done in like good faith to figure out like, okay, how easily is the average person fooled by this and what can we do about that? But like I don't think the researchers at this university were really concerned about anyone's well-being. I think this was just like fucking around with the machine and seeing what it would do with live targets.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's a good point. I do know that in the very early days of Reddit, there was a big controversy over whether they should have a comment system, and a lot of the old school Redditors, the original ones, they thought, well, this is not good because it's going to kind of like cultivate this people posting whatever, and it might extend to like the whole upvote downvote thing too. And they were concerned that it's going to just kind of like encourage like shitty low effort posts that kind of just
it's gonna create what we now recognize as the power user, if you're familiar with that term.
Exactly. And if you look at any of the people with a trillion karma on Reddit, they're just on Reddit all day, and then they kind of just like have these stock responses that they know are going to get like a good response from Reddit. Like if you're on Reddit long enough, you know the demographic of Redditors and what tickles their little funny bone or makes them feel like a lay intelligent superior good little boy or girl that got good grades in school, and they're totally smarter than everybody else, especially Chad, the guy that pushed them into a locker when they were 16. But r/epic revenge, he's a loser, and I'm a successful black man who got imprisoned in a foreign got treated in a foreign hospital. So they have a lot of insight.
I'm glad you could get that off your chest. Sounds like a lot. But yeah, also I want to say, Reddit isn't exactly exceptional in this regard. I do think if you're on any social media website for long enough, you do kind of clue into the language of what does and doesn't like pop off on that website.
Without question.
I know if you're on Tumblr for a long time, people there tend to really like kind of long-winded multi-paragraph posts that have some like, I don't know, like a alliterative reference, or they sound very like witty, or they have some quirky quality to them. If you're on like Twitter or fucking x.com, there's a particular kind of like quippy, short, like mean-spirited sort of dunking humor that does really well on that website, and like everybody kind of tries to mimic it, you know what I mean? Yeah. But Reddit has its own particular language of what does and doesn't pop off on the website, and now that this technology is out there, I can see how it's really fucking easy for like a bot to absorb that data and clue into that exact kind of language with ease.
Yeah, without question. I mean, we talked about, I don't know if it was last episode or one of the bonus or whatever, but the AI generated green texts on 4chan, where like they were pretty accurate to kind of the spirit of that site and what makes a banger green text. So
see, those worked particularly well because whenever the AI bot like hallucinates and what would normally be like considered an error, that just works really well for the particular kind of like complete non sequitur sort of out of left field humor that does really well on 4chan.
Exactly. So that one worked particularly well, but I mean, Reddit is an interesting example because there still is, even though it's not, there still is a spirit of kind of like kind of like old internet forums, and we're so far away from that, but it's definitely a different vibe than like Facebook or Twitter or something like that. Tumblr is another example you brought up where like there's definitely like a very strong culture there. So yeah, but I don't know if there are any bots on Tumblr.
I was gonna say Reddit in particular has this vibe of like it's a little bit like old school forums, right? People posting like very long messages, like unlike Twitter or X or whatever. Like there's no ultimate like limit to how long a post can be. I think there might be, but I know it's like long as fuck, right?
Yeah.
And it's also like you don't really have like a site like Tumblr, right? It's a blogging platform, so everybody there is like gonna customize their little corner. They're gonna be like a little more unique and individualistic about it, but like nobody like fucking follows people's like Reddit profiles or whatever. It's based a little bit less around personalities, other than like I guess maybe people might recognize your name from time to time, but yeah, I'd say Reddit is this very particular mix of like that kind of old school like internet forum sort of mentality, but also like it has this like the whole upvote system that kind of rewards people for posting like blandly agreeable opinions. And I also feel like, you know, playing into the stereotype of the Redditor that we talked before, I think a lot of people have this kind of like lowercase L liberal idea of like the internet as this like marketplace of ideas where the power of like good faith rational arguments can like persuade people of what's like true and correct, and I don't know, I just feel like looking at the way the world has shaped over the past however many years, I think you're kind of a sucker if you still believe this thing. I think one of the ultimate truths of the internet is that I think people are convinced by very stupid things more often than not. I think they'll change their mind about like their favorite like thought leader on YouTube if like, oh, the YouTuber I watch and get all my opinions from was owned epic style in this one debate. I'm going to completely change my ideology now to shift the goals or whatever. Or like people will be like, oh, I'm immune to propaganda. I'm not affected by any of this. I'm an independent thinker or some shit like that. But, you know, people exist in their bubbles. People exist on these websites that have like a kind of like hive mind of what does and doesn't do well. And I think, you know, people kind of take it for granted when they exist on like a website or a subreddit or like a little like a fucking Discord server or some shit like that, where, you know, they're surrounded by people who just agree with them already on all these sorts of things. And I'm not saying necessarily, you know, you must surround yourself with conservatives or like conspiracy theorists to get both sides of this, because like I don't think that's true, but I think the average person is not very plugged in and is not very skeptical of like, it's weird that everybody I hang out with is talking about the exact same things all the time. You know what I mean? I think people are a lot more gullible than they like to believe, and that includes all of us. You know, nobody's immune to it. Yeah.
If you want to get a clear picture of what we're talking about here, go to the subreddit r/askreddit, it's a big front page one, and sort it by like top of all time. And the top posts are so fucking hilarious because it'll just be like, hey Reddit, do you think that people who do a good thing should people should be nice to them? Hey Reddit, do you think people who work really hard at their job and do a great job and make a company a lot of money should get paid more? Why or why not? And there will be 50,000 fucking upvotes and 10,000 comments of just like, yes, I think they should, because if you do a good job, you should be rewarded. And it's just like, yeah, dude, nobody fucking disagrees with this. Like, and it just shows how these fucking Redditors are such rubes with this shit of just like, this is clearly a karma farming fucking bait post, and you're taking it seriously. Like, what the fuck? And these are the people who champion themselves as like, oh, can't fool me.
We're like skeptical, rational,
yes, exactly,
free-thinking, libertarian guys.
Exactly.
If people want a really good video that like breaks down a lot of this, I don't know. I think I might have shouted this one out a long time ago, but the video I just looked it up. It's called A Comprehensive Categorization of Reddit Rage Bait by the channel Li Speaks, Li Speaks, and it's just a breakdown of all the types of Reddit posts that like really get people riled up and angry. Some good examples are like, oh, my mother-in-law did this nasty thing. She, what a bitch, am I right? Or whatever. Yeah. Or like posts about like, oh, this person had their kids in public and they did this thing. That really fucking sucks, doesn't it? And it's just like it's a really fucking comprehensive video. It's almost 2 hours long. Absolutely worth checking out. It does a very good breakdown of like all the posts that I can almost guarantee, you know, if you've been on Reddit for even 10 minutes, you have seen something in that video pop up as rage bait. And like a lot of that has been the case on Reddit well before any of these fucking like AI chatbots ever existed at all. It's just kind of baked into the website and just like that a consequence of the fucking upvote, downvote, updo whatever system.
Oh yeah. And there's so many classic archetypes. A big one is like the epic revenge on Karen, who is like being entitled in Walmart, and then they told her they saw she had something in her pocket and called the cops, and she got arrested, and then everybody clapped. Epic justice served.
I've seen some of them that are like, oh, the OP is just like, I'm just a well-meaning innocent white guy. I just got off of work and I just wanted to go home and be with my kids, but then this nasty fucking immigrant did some bullshit in public and I have to put up with it or whatever. And like, oh, okay, this is like clearly some fucking like racist like r/public freak out like rage bait to get people mad about like black people or immigrants or whatever.
For sure. And that's, but, like, that's where the as a black man, this other black man made me pissed off because I'm one
it's
of the
like,
good
okay,
ones.
The end result of these posts is like, oh yeah, it's gonna get people to adopt a more fucking reactionary, chuddy fucking worldview.
Absolutely.
But like, if you take the poster at face value, if you assume, oh, this is a real person, they're posting in good faith or whatever, and you accept their framing, it's like, oh yeah, this person was just doing what any reasonable person would do in this totally not fictitious, made up, perfectly constructed scenario. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's the logical centrist thing. It's just like, well, I'm not racist because, like, you know, I'm logical and there's no logical basis to racism. However, I noticed that all Indian people are annoying and they smell bad. And then, like, there will be like a million comments like, yeah, I also noticed that. Maybe they should fucking shower. Oh, it must be their culture of like rolling around in shit. And it's like,
yeah, and then you'll get the comment from like, hey Reddit, Indian person here, I totally agree with the original poster or whatever. Yeah. And like that kind of plays into people's like contrarian bias, like, well, if even an Indian person is saying this, then it must be true because that's like an unpopular opinion for them or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And it's just like, it's just kind of disgusting, I don't know, from top to bottom.
It's weird. And yeah, when you wrap all of this shit up in like, oh, well, I'm a both sides centrist and I just look at the logical facts, and it's like, well, that just means you're not aware of your own emotional response and bias and you know, background and all that shit. Nobody is fucking nobody is completely unbiased. We all have life experiences, and you might not even be aware of them consciously, but like, yeah,
not only that, but like I said earlier, if I can put my annoying feminist hat back on for a moment here, like, I think a lot of people like really take pride, and by people I mean men, right? A lot of men really take pride in being like, I'm a rational, logical, intellectual sort of dude. I look at the facts and I'm not swayed by petty things like my feelings. But like, pretty much every time I ever hear somebody describe that, I'm like, okay, this is a person who does not do a lot of like introspection or self-reflection. I think everybody is vulnerable to this sort of thing, because we're all fucking humans. We all have silly, dirty, nasty, petty little feelings, and we're all like governed by those. And like, I don't know, I just don't really believe anybody when they say no, I'm a logical, rational sort of person, because like, nobody is. And that's not to say that you shouldn't like aspire to be logical in your thinking, and like skeptical in your beliefs, and try to reason things out. But like, I think the moment you kind of accept logical as being like an immutable characteristic of your identity, that's the moment that you like stop reflecting and like being critical of yourself. And I think that's kind of the original sin of like the archetypical Redditor and a lot of people on the internet as a whole.
Oh, absolutely. And if you want a great illustration of this in another avenue, look no further than like the manosphere, like pickup artist type of like red pill culture, or black pill, or whatever the fuck you want to whatever you want to call it. Which we've talked about at length in the past, but these are dudes who are deeply emotional. They're caught up in their feelings so hard, and their way to cope with this is to kind of frame everything when it comes to women and relationships, and how they think about themselves and their ideas of how successful they are. All this shit. Well, they're just like, I just understand the realities of men and women and society and all of this shit. And really it all comes down to like their screeching internally about why Stacy won't return their phone calls, but then they go on their forums or watch fucking videos by the most insufferable people on the planet. Who are just like, yeah, it's because hypergamy and the society we live in and all this type of shit. And and it allows people to externalize everything, because that's the convenience of the logical, intelligent science man, is you get to ignore yourself and just say, the way that I reacted to this, it's logical because of these facts, and not feelings, of course, because facts, as we all know, do not care about your feelings.
Yeah, and oftentimes, the most logical, rational explanation for something, it also tends to be like pretty simple. Not to say that like things can't be unintuitive or whatever, but like when you look at the manosphere in particular, right? Basically, the entire like school of ideology or propaganda that these guys shout is like, okay, what do women want? Don't listen to the women. Listen to me, a man who will tell you what they actually want. And it's like, okay. I think a turn of phrase that I use to describe these people, I know I've said this before, is like they basically treat other people as being fundamentally like less sentient beings than themselves. Mm-hmm. They kind of think of themselves as like living computers or whatever. And it's like, well, I just have to operate by these rules, and then I'll get these outcomes, and I'm clued into this system of rules and cause and effect in a way that these other lesser capable machines are not. So I don't know, it's just at the end of the day, like these people don't respect themselves, and they respect everybody else like even less than that, and it's just a sad way to live your life.
It absolutely is, and that's the most convenient, ego affirming way to live, is just, I had a bad experience, or I don't like something, or I feel bad, So I could look inward and see, was I wrong? Am I out of touch? Am I not understanding something? Should I search? No, it's just because I'm very intelligent and very logical, and everybody else is illogical. So boom, there it is. Case closed. Now I will found a tech company and make a shit ton of money and just be a piece of shit and ruin the world.
I think so many people, and this is not just like even like Redditor tech bro type people. I think a lot of like regular people, just like as a result of like living in this period of time, kind of take for granted the whole analogy of like, well, the human brain is kind of like a really advanced computer or a machine or something like that. There are all sorts of like very normal fucking unplugged in people who believe this thing or some variation of it, or they'll just hear it and nod along and be like, yeah, that sounds kind of clever, that sounds like it's probably true. And like, man, we really got to do the episode about the rationalist movement, because I think we're kind of living with like the consequences of the last however many decades of this being like a thing in the zeitgeist. And like, man, I don't think it's true. I think believing this thing has had devastating consequences for the world and like society, and people just kind of fucking suck ass now as a result of it.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say, and this will tease what we'll get into when we talk about that movement of very epic gentlesirs. This is actually this was a huge kind of like mindset in the realm of psychology called cognitivism. And this gained a lot of popularity in the age of computing. And as computers became more prevalent in society, it gained a lot of steam. And that was the prevailing view for a while, that yes, your brain is a computer. We take in information, we process it, and then we output things based on like, you know, like algorithmic like shit.
Wow, just like ChatGPT.
Wow, yeah, yes, exactly. And I've talked about this before when we talked about like AI art and shit, which is a fundamental misunderstanding of like what humans are. We are not computers. It's not just information going into your brain. There's a lot more going on there. Cognitivism is pretty much out at this point, as far as like the prevailing viewpoint of cognitive psychology, because we've found out that there's a lot more going on there, which like I can't really like shit on anybody who had that theory. Like, it makes sense until you think about it for a little while, because our brains don't really work like that. And yeah,
I mean, that's science at the end of the day, right? Like, somebody has a theory, and like we kind of test it out and see what the ramifications of it are over time. And, you know, in this case, it turns out, yeah, this is a fucking dead end. This is not a useful way to think about psychology.
Right.
So.
And there's so many ways you can say, well, what about this? And it just doesn't really add up, which I'm not going to get into now. But if you,
I mean, it's like I said, people are irrational. People are fucking chaotic little gremlins or whatever that will have their minds changed by completely stupid, irrelevant things that don't make any sense. But like, hey, whatever makes them arrive at some different opinion. I don't know. I think any view of like the human mind or whatever needs to have like some explanation or some acknowledgement of like, yeah, people just like do dumb shit for no fucking reason sometimes, because that's just how people are.
Yeah.
So.
And you know, it's fine to be wrong, but you have to be, I don't want to say keep an open mind, because people say that when it's just like, well, why don't you like think
people
about,
need to do their own research.
Yeah, right. Exactly. These are the kind of dog whistles that really mean like, hey, stop being like normal and think about why it's actually why the Nazis were actually right. But like it's very ironic that these people who laud themselves as like the most intelligent and the most logical are truly the most intellectually lazy. They latch on to something, they make it part of their ego, then that's it. Boom, done. Yeah, I just created an entire persona.
At the very least, I think we could at least agree that people should always be open. People should always have an open mind to the possibility that they're wrong, or
yes,
that they live in a bubble, or that they have a bias, or that they haven't completely figured something out, or that maybe other people know something that they don't. So.
Right. Except for us, everything that you hear on this podcast, that is gospel And if you ever disagree with anything that we say, post it in the comments. And post an actual critique in the comments. Don't just be like, yo, gang, this is cap on God. Don't do that. That's fucking weird. Just say what you gotta say.
I don't know. I don't really want critique. I'd like it if people like maybe glazed me a little bit more. I think I put a lot of work into this show, and I don't think enough people like suck my dick over it every day. But that's my cross to bear. Not everybody can be like an enlightened podcasting philosopher, king or queen, like both of us.
Yeah.
But everybody else should be open to being wrong. It's a different ballgame if you're just like a different class of person who makes videos on the internet.
Yeah, right. Well, that's the thing. I want you to leave a comment so I can epic dunk style on you. When I read the comments, which is usually when I upload the following episode, but I'll read them more often.
If you really want to leave a mean or critical comment about me, please make your profile picture an actual photo of yourself so that I can draw you doing something embarrassing, because that's my one skill in this world.
Hey, free art, baby. That's
free art.
That's a
you'll
incentive.
get I'll draw you a little Ghibli style, if you know what I mean.
Hey.
And that movie will be Grave of the Fireflies. Anyway, I think that's all we got for today. Let's wrap up this bad boy.
All right, fuck yeah. Well, let's shout out the patrons who are very, very rational, very enlightened, and very intelligent.
And have never fallen for any tricks on the internet.
Absolutely not. Okay, so in no particular order, we got Protagon, Nick, Trash Bins, we got Clam, Walker, Weasel, Nilly, Heresy, Woke Baby, Brina, and Patty. Thank you all again and again for everything you've done for us.
Thank you for
you're
greasing
best.
the wheels of this terrible machine that we've built over the past year and some change. Before we go, I don't want to drag it out. I don't want to be overly apologetic. Our release schedule has been kind of jank lately. Please forgive me. Some life shit has been going on, but I think we're getting back on the train. I think we're getting back on schedule, and I think we have a lot of fun things planned for the next couple episodes. So thanks so much for your continued support, and look forward to that.
Yeah, we got some treats cooking on the side too, so all you little treatlers, you can look forward to that.
Yeah, thankfully the one thing not affected by tariffs yet is some good podcast content.
Yeah. Cool. Until we move abroad, and then they put a tariff on it.
I mean, I guess I live in Canada, right? I think we're still affected by those, so maybe we get like half of the tariff applied to Canada.
Yeah, that's true. Although, if you're not a member of the Patreon, these episodes are free, so 120% of free is still fucking free, baby.
Listen, for tax purposes, Super Despair World is based in whatever part of New York Dave lives in, unless something else is more convenient. Anyway,
yes, yeah, New Hampshire.
Anyway, thanks so much for listening. We'll see you guys next week. Have a good one.
Fuck yeah. Good fight. Good night.